guys. Let's get right into it.
Are we live?
We're live.
All right.
All right, guys. Welcome to the podcast. My name's Rob, and we are the Fantasy Football Scouts. And you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Fantasy Football Scouts. And you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Scott, aka self-proclaimed Mr. Hot Take, because I can have an opinion on any player that anyone wants to ask me about.
I'm Dan, and I'm always constantly doing the research here. I'm kind of the data guy, and even right now as we speak, just found something interesting that Saquon Barkley is basically going to be making no money this year because he wants all his marketing money in Bitcoin.
I think that he did himself a great disservice. Dan is a self-proclaimed sports center because he always has his phone in his hand ready to break the news at any given moment. So that's what we think about him.
So just a little bit of background information since it's episode 1. I run 2 fantasy football leagues. The first one started in 2006 and the second one in 2009. So I've been doing this for a really long time. I've won a few championships. They're both very difficult leagues. There's no easy opponents. The league that Scott, Dan, and I are in is the 2009 one, and they've both been in it since day one. Both my leagues are IDP, so we'll be able to help you guys on the defensive side of the game as well as the offense, and we'll get into IDP on another episode. Both Scott and Dan have a ton of football knowledge, and I'll always trust their advice and any information they put out there, and we're going to be giving away valuable information on the podcast. And really, we're just here to help, and, hopefully we can win you guys some championships. And you can always reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter for any advice, any fantasy advice. And, we love the sport. We love fantasy football, and hopefully, like I said, we can help you guys win some championships.
Or at least go deep, because one of the worst feelings is being dead in the water after week 1 and feeling like, why am I even doing this? You know, it's a long wait to come around back to the next season. I'll tell you that much.
The rants always get interesting.
So, this is a new season, 2021. They added an extra game in the year, so it looks like the fantasy playoffs will run from week 15, week 16, and week 17 rather than start at 14. So that's a little bit of a change. We were going to talk about quarterbacks for this episode, specifically quarterbacks, guys that we like, guys that we think will bust, and also sleeper picks. So with that being said, you guys want to just jump right into it?
Let's do it. Let's get all the obvious off the table. I think we can all agree that if you have a chance at Pat Mahomes, and you go ahead and you take Pat because he's probably the best guy in the league, makes the ton of cheddar, and got a brand new offensive line there, so he's not going to be running around like a chicken with his head cut off.
How early? Because some leagues, quarterbacks will go in the first round. Some will go in the third or fourth. So where are you taking Pat Mahomes?
Yeah, I disagree with you, Dan. I mean, you don't need Pat Mahomes. Quarterback is a very low risk position. I mean, the reaching for quarterbacks is far outdated at this point. It's frankly, we have. You generally are only going to have 12 fantasy teams in the deepest leagues, maybe even 14 if you're really in a man's league, and there's just more than enough quarterbacks to go around.
That's what I was going to say too.
You're not going to have FOMO if you don't have Patrick Mahomes. There are some great quarterbacks even 2-3 rounds later looking at the list.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes is vicious. He's a great pick, but I think that the depth this year for the quarterback position is really high. There's probably I would be okay with like 1 of 8. There's 8 guys that I would be okay with. So I probably wouldn't waste a second or third round pick because that's what you're going to need to take.
I completely agree.
But I do agree that Mahomes is a good pick. If he's available in the third round, then that would definitely be a possibility.
Yeah, it's called opportunity cost. It's something people have to understand. When you take Mahomes, you're going to be leveraged the entire field. All the running backs, all the receivers. You can't get them. The ones that are in that round, simply put. So if you're taking a quarterback that early, you have to know what you're doing or be experienced enough to know the league and the players that are going to be available to you.
So Dan, is that who you would call a must-have? Are you going to risk a first or second round pick on Mahomes this year?
It really depends on draft placement. If I'm at the bottom of the second round, I'm going to take Mahomes right there.
Yeah.
I have a pretty strong must-have list, so do you want me to kick it off, Dan?
Let's see. Let's have your next guy, but I think that we have a guy here that I think you and I both think is a must-have, and that's Matty Stafford out in L.A.
Yeah, Stafford is in my sleepers list, to be honest. He's not a must-have. I mean,
Yeah.
my must-have list consists of all dual-threat quarterbacks. We're in the new NFL where you really need those extra rushing points. Not a burner, but someone who can at least get that 1-yard rushing touchdown for you or that 5-yard rushing touchdown.
A sleeper is still a good pick. If you have him in your sleepers list, then yeah, he might not be a must-have, but he would be a good pick.
You know,
right?
I'll put it to you this way as I'm looking through my list, and this is a sleeper, and we're not going to go there yet, but just because he's the first guy that really stuck out to me. As bad as the season that Carson Wentz had last year, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. It's pretty wild when I looked at that. I didn't actually realize.
Who?
Carson Wentz had 5 rushing touchdowns last
gotcha.
year. It doesn't mean that he's a good rusher or anything, but I mean, these are the kind of points that really add up for you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to reach insanely on quarterbacks. I'll throw it back to Dan for the must-haves, though, if he wants to go that way. Stafford was not one of my must-haves, though.
Okay, well, no. If Dan thinks Matt Stafford is a must-have, then maybe give a little bit of.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be asked to chuck the ball all around the field, which with Stafford, a little bit less is more. It's going to bring down his receptions, and he's playing with 2 of the best receivers that he's ever played with. Now, I know everybody's going to say that, well, he had Megatron, but that guy was just a freak where Woods and Cup, they know more about where they need to be, when they need to be there, and they know where Stafford is going to release the ball before he releases the ball.
Yeah, he's definitely got some really good weapons. Not touching on wide receivers, but I do like Robert Woods because of Matt Stafford.
Well, I'll say this much for you, Dan, because I do like Stafford. Actually, I have him in my sleepers, like I said, not my must-haves. That doesn't mean I don't like him because, A, he's free. He's going as one of the last main quarterbacks. He did get drafted in the last Yahoo draft I did, but it was 108th, so you're getting him pretty fair value. The thing is, you say he's not chucking, but you're going to actually want him and need him to chuck the ball, which is historically he's done. He's always a 4,000, 5,000-yard quarterback. He's not a rusher. He's a very slow quarterback. So you're going to need him to throw the ball if you use him. But again, the opportunity cost is so low. This isn't a problem. You can easily have him and another quarterback on your team.
He could be your second quarterback.
It's not an issue whatsoever.
Yeah. He's definitely got the offense to get some fantasy
playing
points.
under Sean McVay. Here's something that I want to reiterate over some episodes is offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. The average person doesn't get to know these guys very well, but I'll tell you, players come and go in the NFL. OCs and DCs, they stick around. You get to know these names, and you're going to feel a lot more confident when they land new jobs. You go, oh, that guy is there now. Now you're going to like that team for a reason. Having reasons is always good in fantasy football. Not blindly just start picking players because you're guessing. It's nice to know information.
Yeah, I like Stafford, and he'll definitely be on my list when it comes to draft day. Speaking of draft, we do our we actually do our fantasy or our draft lottery usually at the end of July. So we'll all get together, the 12 guys, and we'll actually do our draft lottery so that we know where we're picking ahead of draft day. It gives you a little bit of you're able to prepare a little bit better.
It certainly is a big reason why the league is probably more competitive. Now, some guys still just show up with the book on the day of and start picking names.
Yeah.
But knowing where you're drafting is a huge advantage to your summertime.
Okay, let's keep going. So, who else is who do you like for must-haves as quarterback?
Yeah, Dan, you went to the bottom list. Yeah, I started from the top down when it came to must-haves. So when I looked over the draft, I felt like Kyler Murray might be the most must-have quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
He's going at the 50th ADP. That's basically that's round 5, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, 48 is round 4, right? Yeah. And 50 is basically in the 4th, 5th round. You're getting this guy.
I agree. I really like.
I was a bit of
Murray.
a Kyler Murray detractor when he got drafted because he was so short.
Yeah.
But when you watch him, you enjoy Arizona football. I've really become a fan of Arizona and what they do, and Kyler Murray is a big part of that. He is quite the compact little mover You know, he doesn't get hurt as much as you would think for a guy his size.
Yeah, he's going to
That extra game though, that's going to hurt him, and we did see towards the end of the season there last year that
He was banged up.
when you needed him the most, you know, he wasn't on the field, and
Yeah, but quarterbacks are easily replaceable. That's what I talked about with low risk quarterbacks. When quarterbacks get hurt, your season's not over. Even if you lose Mahomes, your season's not over. We saw all sorts of waiver wire quarterbacks last year really come through. Listen, injuries are the nature of the beast. I don't like to always qualify players by injuries. And Kyler Murray does not strike me as the kind of guy that's always getting hurt. That could change, but there's certain guys that we call the RG3-esque types that they find their way onto the IR through almost their own fault. Kyler Murray, he runs pretty responsibly, you know?
if you're looking at a guy that runs really responsibly, I think we're looking at probably the greatest fantasy football quarterback right now. And that's Russell Wilson, because, you know, he is the system in Seattle, obviously.
He was my next must-have, so I'll let you take that away, Dan. If you really want a guy who's built like a brick S-house, Russell Wilson's your guy. If you don't believe me, go check out the thighs on that man. I mean, it is scary how built he is.
Just ask Sierra, right? Yeah. But, yeah, he's definitely going to get you those rushing touchdowns, and his scrambling ability, second to none, and he's got two monsters that are on the
this is a
outside.
perfect example of why you don't need Mahomes. You know how many times I've seen Russell Wilson score 50 fantasy points in a week? It's unbelievable.
So my question was, where is Russell Wilson getting drafted compared to the other guys?
Believe it or not, now I always say it's hard with mock drafts and Yahoo because people don't always take them
But
seriously.
he's going later than
But
Kyler
he went
Murray.
number 72.
Yeah.
We're talking 9th round.
Yeah.
He's, you know, like I got Aaron Rodgers last year for free. Quarterbacks will always slip. Some will. Maybe not Russell Wilson. Maybe someone's going to be a fan of his.
Yeah.
But if you can get him after the 6th round, you're going to feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dan, that Wilson is a must-have, especially at the value that you're getting to him, because guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and even Justin Herbert will probably get drafted before Russell Wilson, and I think that might be a mistake.
I gotta say, I didn't run down Kyler Murray's numbers. He lived a lot last year off his rushing ability, maybe a little more than you want to acknowledge Dan's injury potential point. Russell Wilson, however, 4,200 yards, 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 68%. 83 attempts for 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's giving you half a running back's production with all the elite quarterback. The guy's the best reader. I mean, he's easily one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. So, frankly, I don't see much difference between him and anyone else. The fact that he's going at 72 is almost insulting to me. I would definitely bump him up on my own board because, like I always say in fantasy football, there's only 2 ways to go, up or down. You don't sit on the fence about a guy. If you like him, you better be prepared to reach for him. And if you don't like him, I leave him to the wolves because let someone else be his problem. Russell Wilson's definitely not the guy that you want to leave if you have a chance to grab him. Yeah. Must-have quarterback for sure.
Yeah.
We got a curious case here of a guy that you just mentioned in Aaron Rodgers now. That obviously we got some controversy going on, but reports are right now that he'll be ready to go for training camp. But is he going to play with that passion that we've seen, or is he just going to be pouting on the sideline and just kind of protecting himself for his next big team, whichever, you know?
Did you want me to answer that, or were you
go
setting
for
up
it.
the audience for that? Okay, well, I have a philosophy in fantasy football. I don't mess with players under controversy. This happened a lot last year with the Saints. Not getting political on our podcast, but they had quite the fracturing of the locker room last year over various things that I think everyone that's aware of it knows about it, with Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. This is a big reason why I wasn't crazy about Michael Thomas last year, which ironically worked out. Rob had him and knows how painful it was. Not that it has anything to do with it, but I don't go with players that aren't focused in training camp. If a guy has a contract dispute and isn't there, I take him off my board. If guys are having a locker room problem, I take him off my board. They're not in the game. Football is brutal. It's a marathon to start before the season. It's a sprint once you hit week 1.
Yeah.
There's no time for that.
Now, Dan is a Packers fan, so he might be a little bit biased. But when I trust his input when he says that Rodgers will be ready, I do believe him, and I agree with that.
The problem is that Rodgers and LaFleur have been doing this song and dance ever since he got there. Very weird. They draft a quarterback in the first round. They're trying to spit in his face about it. It's a very strange situation. With
What kind of numbers? I know he had a great season, but where was he amongst quarterbacks last year?
I didn't
Was
write
he top 3?
I didn't write them down because I had him. I know know he was one of the best quarterbacks. He won the MVP, right?
I'll just look this up quickly, but I believe he was fantasy quarterback number one.
He won the MVP. He was fantastic. It was an absolute treat to have him as a quarterback.
And Aaron Rodgers, because of the holding out, is probably going to be on the board a little bit later.
I would imagine so.
Right?
I mean, he's not getting younger. It's a fickle thing with fantasy football. Sometimes guys love people, sometimes they don't. I'm not really sure how the public feels about him.
I'm with Dan on this. I think that if Rodgers is on the board come round 6, 7, 8, even 9, well, no, that's pushing it. But
he could be though.
I think you gamble. I think he's worth the gamble. I think he will be ready to play, and I think it's a good pick.
I have one more big technical problem that I don't like with Green Bay. They let go of their all-star center, Corey Linsley. They let him walk. And centers are the biggest piece for everyone will think the left tackles, but centers are a big piece of what makes quarterbacks successful. They call it the plays. They do a lot of things, guys. We saw what happened in Dallas when Travis Frederick retired, and they went into a tailspin. You'll see it happen multiple times if you look through history. When you dump centers like that, it's a bad vibe, man.
Do you know who's replacing him?
Yeah, they put a lot of capital into replacing him, and they took the center Myers out of Ohio State University, second round, and he is slid right in there.
So yeah, if they drafted took a second round pick for a center, then yeah, I think he'll be all right. But yeah, replacing,
it's a mystery. I will bet that Rodgers is not as successful this year as people want to think. He's not getting any younger. He doesn't have anything to prove. You know, and
I mean to match what he did last year, that's asking a lot.
They didn't draft any offense again. I mean, they're getting real thin on just weapons for this guy to bail them out. The days of Jordy Nelson and James Jones are long behind us, and
they're expecting big things out of their third round receiver.
Yeah, but that's
Amari Rodgers.
That's camp talk. We hear that kind of thing from every team all the time, that they're always expecting big things out of players. But hey. If you want to get Rodgers, the opportunity will be there. He's not going very high. He will not jump on draft boards anytime soon. It's not gonna happen. So you'll have a chance if you really like him and you really want him. You're gonna have a chance to get him at a fair price.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's all
I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep it going. So we're talking about must-haves or.
I definitely have two big quarterbacks still on the board. Dak Prescott is not. I'm not his biggest fan. I haven't been his biggest fan through the years.
Yeah.
But the production is definitely there.
Yeah. Coming off of injury too, though, right?
Yeah, it's an ankle injury. I mean, it might. He wasn't running a ton, anyways. Last year, 50. The year, I'm not sure. This might be the year before last year. I can't. Because he didn't play at all last year. 52 attempts for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. It wasn't a ton. It's enough to set the goal line.
He's 100%.
Yeah,
right now, right?
I mean, I don't worry about a quarterback having to overcome injuries as much because I mean, frankly, they don't have to do as much physically demanding as some of the other positions in that regard.
That's true.
I mean, I would live with it.
So are you saying you like Dak or you don't like him?
I do like Dak based on what I saw from his last healthy season. We can't always project out based on old numbers, but he's still in his prime. And like, if you like Dallas, if you like the opponents they go against, a lot of weak defenses,
he's
an elite offense.
Yeah,
he's a guy to grab. You don't have to have Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. You can have just the quarterback and feel happy about that.
He's going pretty high though.
He is going pretty. The one problem you touched on is he is going high. He's actually a little bit right behind Lamar Jackson at 64. So he's going in round 5. That's not bad.
So the fourth or fifth going off the board.
Yes, you got that right. Yeah, but he's about the 5th quarterback going off the board. So I mean. I'm just saying, if you're a fan of his, a lot like we talked about with Rodgers.
What about? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, a lot like him. If you like him and you feel confident about it, there's absolutely no reason to not grab Dak at his ADP. It's not overpriced per se. I mean, it is if you want a dumpster dive for some quarterbacks.
What do you think about Justin Herbert? We haven't talked about this guy.
Yeah, we were going to get there because we actually disagreed on. This will be one of our first disagreements.
We did. I think that Justin Herbert, he's coming from a small school and coming off a really good season, but he's coming off a season that wasn't a real season where his home stadium was completely quiet. He didn't hear a lot of crowd noise, which is obviously a huge part of football. So I think he's going to struggle with the nonverbal communication, and there's always the the notion that the Chargers are a little bit of a dumpster fire when it comes to injuries. They are
Well, they're cursed. They have some bad luck.
the
with
most
injuries.
injured team in the league.
Every year, it seems.
But I think Herbert is in line for a down season, and that's not only him. I think all these second-year quarterbacks are gonna really struggle this year to adjust to what the actual NFL is.
Maybe. I guess that's not really quantifiable right now. We can't really say for sure if that would happen or not. All I can say is this. Herbert is a winner. I mean, he's a huge guy, and he can rush the ball. He is a dual threat. He played some big games last year. He went to overtime against Kansas, almost beat them. There's a few games that happen like that. He's not a loser, you know. I mean, I can't see a large reason to not bet on him based on his talent. I could see a reason to fade him based on his average draft position right now, which seems to be going. He's one of those guys that is going up and up. Unlike Rodgers, or I don't know how Herbert's going ahead of Wilson in drafts, but this is kind of part of the kookiness of mock drafts where you can take it seriously or you can't. I don't really think much of it.
Yeah.
I just think if he's going to go that high, it won't be on my team. His numbers.
Is he mobile? Does he run a lot?
Yeah, well, last year he had 55 attempts for 234 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Okay.
It was enough that, again, when you're in the red zone, when you're near the box, he could have a wide run, get out there and get that free tub for you.
Yeah.
It's just some guys will never do it because they don't do it, and he is not one of those guys. So he can do it. If you want to fade him because of his ADP, I totally understand that because it just seems like it's going up and up. That's the way it goes with hype in the NFL, man. You know, I mean, when guys are loved, they get taken. And, so you know what? It's almost not a disagreement. I just think that when I was doing these lists, I looked at his numbers. I thought this is a guy to have. Could have easily been Lamar Jackson if I want to. I don't really have a lot to say about him today, but you know,
So
it's his size.
When you say second year quarterbacks, all of them are going to struggle, or maybe most. So you think Burrow and Tua?
Well, see, Tua, I think is going to struggle just because I don't think Tua is very good. He's immobile. He's small.
Tua's on my bust list coming up.
He can't actually do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Where Joe Burrow, you know, he's a bigger guy coming off that ACL surgery, but he came from a great program where they just lit the world on fire, and now he's got his
Jamar Chase.
He's got his boy, but he's definitely one of my sleepers.
Burrow
not
is
a
a
must.
number one overall pick, and generally we kind of look at those guys differently. Like, unless you're a real bust, number one overall picks usually you rely on them to be successful. He has quite the offense. Tyler Boyd is a great receiver, very disrespected, but just continues to do it with or without Green. He didn't seem to care, and T. Higgins is practically a dual tight end receiver at his size. They have that little bit of that old LA Chargers size with the receivers going on. So Burrow was in my sleepers. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit after that. I only have one more must-have though when we're done with this little diatribe. So I originally had this guy in my sleepers list, but it was just too obvious of a name, and this is all based on nothing solid yet. But the man that I'm referring to is Deshaun Watson. Okay, I mean right now it's looking more and more like he might actually play. The allegations. Yeah. Well, you know what? That doesn't bother me. If he was still playing and it wasn't on Houston, I would still take him just as quickly.
So Deshaun Watson, he's going to be. I mean, he'll be available.
They're talking
He'll be
about
free.
They're talking about settling and getting that over with as far as his personal issues are going.
Okay.
I read a little bit of that on the old social media machines.
Okay, yeah.
But to your point, undrafted. This guy right now, if you were doing drafts early, you're going to be having a...
So he's not even going to get drafted
He's not,
in
because
fantasy?
the average public right now doesn't think he's even playing, so they have no interest in drafting a guy that's not playing.
So are you trying to gamble like one of your last picks on Deshaun?
Yeah, the closer we get, and more information we get, he would rise up my board. That's really the only way I can put it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
still a little early.
If I can grab him in round 9 or 10, I will do it. And like I said, as we get more information, and if we found out he is going to play, he will just keep going up my board.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
Productivity-wise. And being a Houston fan who has to slog through this miserable era, I can tell you, watching him is still like, man, how is he... You look at his numbers after the season, you're like, how is he doing this? They have no receivers, barely any running backs, a terrible pocket. Bill O'Brien, I think, had a vendetta where he was trying to tear this team down from the inside or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
They got a couple running backs now though. They picked up Philip Lindsay and
they picked up Philip Lindsay.
Who's the other one?
Well, honestly, I looked over
David
Johnson
and Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
That's who it is, eh?
David Johnson's not getting any younger, but his YPC wasn't as bad last year as people want to say, which is a big number I would look at when I talk about running backs as yards per carry. It's very indicative of how someone's playing. And
So when it comes to Deshaun, it's still up in the air.
Very much.
We don't know too much, but yeah, like you said, if it comes out that he's going to play, then he's going to go.
It could
pretty
easily
high,
swing
right?
where it's like, oh no, you can't take him anymore because something bad happens or doesn't go his way. But as of right now, it's not looking that way. Just by the narratives that are floating out
And
there.
he's a must-have if he.
I mean, this guy was going in the second, third, fourth rounds of all the drafts before this. You know, I mean, he's an absolute machine. So
Last report that I read, it had him linked to Philadelphia. So
yeah, Denver's always on that list. It's irrelevant to me where he lands. He's too good to just not take a chance on if you have that opportunity.
Yeah. Who you want to talk about?
Are we going for sleepers here?
Sure, let's do sleepers.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with my namesake here, Daniel Jones. You know, it's time for him to put up. He's got his number one receiver there finally. You know, Galladay came over for the big money.
Big acquisition.
They also brought in Kyle Rudolph, you know, the red zone reindeer, and hey, Mr. Bitcoin himself coming back as well. So if those
Who's that?
Barkley. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean.
So
he's got the weapons.
He's got the toys to play with. So it's time for him to take that next step.
Yeah, it's kind of a put up or shut up season for Daniel Jones.
And
There's
he's
been a lot of
coming
rumblings.
he's coming off a season where he had 36 touchdowns.
Listen, games against Dallas and Philly are always going to, even Washington, they're always going to be
Washington
wild.
too,
They
yeah.
always seem to be high scoring.
Yeah.
Players in those divisions always seem to be worth having on your team, whether one way or another.
If you're looking at guys that you're going to get for free, guys that aren't necessarily your sit 'em and forget, start 'em and set 'em guys, you might want to look at Washington staying in the division because Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I was going to mention him actually.
He keeps finding a job, and he's definitely a guy that can not necessarily start for you, but definitely win you a game here and there, depending on the matchup. Which a lot of guys are like that if you're not one of the big boys. But
Well, their defense is one of the best, so the offense should get a lot of field time. And now, when you're looking at weapons for Fitzpatrick, not that he didn't have any in Miami, but Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas.
I am not a Fitzpatrick fan.
Yeah.
In the sense where, listen, you can waiver wire this guy, but you never know
That's
if
true.
it's going to go well or if he's going to throw 4 picks and give you negative points. It does happen with him. Be very careful if you're going to waiver wire Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's a reason why he always starts on seasons and ends up getting replaced halfway through.
Yeah, you'll be able to get him on the wire, but he could be a sleeper pick. I do agree with that.
He's been doing this a long time. I mean, I think that maybe the boat is set on using him as a solid fantasy asset. Maybe DFS type people are gonna want to get him every now and then, but I am not a.
What's your thoughts on the rookies, on Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and Zach?
Well,
Wilson?
Trevor Lawrence is my sleeper after Joe Burrow. We already talked about Joe Burrow a little bit, so I don't have to go over his numbers. I mean, it was kind of cut anyways by his injury, so it's not going to eye pop you. Yeah. But Trevor Lawrence, I've been joking this summer that I've become a supplanted Jacksonville Jaguars fan because I'm really liking the way that their team is shaping up with Urban Meyer coming in. He's bringing a certain aura of respect and competency that I think maybe Jacksonville hasn't had for a while. Everything that I've seen from Lawrence in his college days, it seems like he's a very competent, very strong quarterback that's probably going to be a household name next year, I would imagine.
he's been the guy since he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
But as far as the rookie quarterbacks go, I'm sure you'll find them on the waiver wire because Justin Fields, he's not going to start right away. Zach Wilson, you don't want any part of. He's a Jet,
Yeah.
I'll just make a quick point on the rookie quarterbacks because they were actually in my bust list. I don't have any faith this year in rookie quarterbacks or really rookie receivers, to be honest with you. I don't. I don't think they're in a great position to succeed. If you look down the list, so you mentioned Chase, Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, Tyler Boyd and Higgins already are there and established. They've played very well.
That's true.
And to their credit, they actually talked about how they're not going to be force feeding anyone targets in Cincinnati a few days ago. That was one of the little blurbs that came up about them. I just wouldn't. I don't see it as a smash spot for Jamar Chase specifically. We got Devonta Smith in Philadelphia, right? I know we're talking about receivers when we shouldn't be, but it's just really quick. I don't like Jalen Hurts. I don't think it's a great spot for that. I don't see how he's going to get 100 targets or catches
Second-year
and
quarterback
make it
again.
go well. I don't see it myself. Maybe I'll be wrong. There's a third receiver out there. Do you remember who that is, Dan? I can't.
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, is it Waddle?
Oh, yeah.
Jalen
for
Waddle.
Miami.
Is it Miami? Yeah. See, I just don't see any of these guys being in a spot where they're gonna crush targets, Julio style or AJ Green style.
So you think Andy Dalton starts week 1 for Chicago?
I
do
think
not.
Andy's going to be there. I don't want anything to do with Chicago outside of Allen Robinson. You can just throw those rookie quarterbacks out the window. And
I'd be shocked if Justin Fields didn't start. I mean, we have these stats where maybe this doesn't work for starting, but first round quarterbacks for almost basically the last 20 years have always played the first year. Yeah. Jordan Love was the first one in 20 years to not play, drafted in the first round. Every single one of them.
Their week 1 matchup is actually Sunday Night Football against the Rams in the new stadium.
A rematch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
I don't know why you would play Dalton.
It would be wild to see Fields start.
You may as well
game.
play him. It's good for the fans. It's always nice to have hope. If he's going to be exciting, you're not really going to care if he's doing big things. You just think it's for the fans when you play him, not for fantasy.
One guy, though, that I think is getting a lot of people excited out in New Orleans, there is infamous Jameis Winston coming off the 30-30 club.
He didn't make my list, but sleeper-wise, I think Jameis Winston is a very good potential. You can grab him off the waiver wire. You can get him for free. I mean, listen, this guy can throw the ball. There's no doubt. We saw him play one down last year in the playoffs, and it was a 60-yard touchdown. Yeah, just one throw. I mean, the guy has a cannon.
He's always had that big arm, and we even saw Tom Brady struggle under Bruce Arians. So is this a situation there where Sean Payton is going to take care of him and make sure that his guys get open? So, I'm expecting big things
I'll
from
say this in Jameis' defense. Bruce Arians seems to have a problem where he inflates quarterbacks' interceptions. I don't think there's any doubt about it anymore. To see Tom Brady throw as many interceptions last year as he did under Bruce Arians was actually pretty shocking to me because that guy doesn't throw picks. He doesn't like throwing picks. He gets very mad when he throws picks. And they were coming in bunches last year for Brady because that's the way Bruce Arians operates his offense. It's something. These are the nuances that you pick up when you watch enough of the football. Jameis Winston out of that system, I certainly want to give him a chance to be a starter again or be successful. I'm not really sure what the Saints are thinking right now with Taysom Hill on the roster. But I'm a big proponent of this guy getting out there and showing us that he can still play in the NFL.
Yeah, he's got Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Kamara catches a lot of balls.
Oh, man. I mean, Traquan Smith might not be a household name, but he's good enough to at least get down the field and catch a ball.
As far as bust quarterbacks go, I mean, in fantasy football, you're only looking at two things.
Before we move to busts, I have a few. These are so low they're almost undrafted. Baker Mayfield definitely belongs in the NFL. If you want to grab him, I mean, it's easier than trying to get Odell or some crap like that and have an injury concern. I mean, he had 3,500 yards last year, 54 attempts, so he's not much of a rusher. Maybe he shouldn't have made my sleeper list, but I was just going down the list and I was trying to find guys that are competent, that can be on the waiver wire, and he has a want to improve. I mean, listen, if there's a Hall of Fame for commercials, Baker Mayfield would be number one on this list. The guy does more commercials than anybody. But as far as playing football,
that's not a bad sleeper pick.
he's okay. The last guy that I had was Carson Wentz because we saw what Indy does with Phillip Rivers last year, who was kind of left for dead. Carson Wentz had a real bad end to his Philadelphia career. Him and Doug Peterson were not good together.
Isn't he back with his offensive coordinator?
Frank Reich,
Yeah, he had a lot of picks last year, but like I said, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. It's actually pretty wild. So he's not scared to hit the end zone on the red zone.
I don't know, man. Carson's a big question mark for me.
Oh, he's an absolute question mark, but you're not drafting this guy.
Yeah.
He is completely, when I say deep sleeper, I mean you can just get him off the scrap heap and you can plug him in. This is what I mean if you take a risky quarterback or something that you don't believe in. He's one of those guys you can supplement your team with and at least have him around until you feel comfortable and maybe you're ready to cut ties with him. But Indy is a great fantasy football team right now. They have the best pocket in the NFL, in my opinion, and they will make life easier for him than Philadelphia did.
As far as bust goes with quarterbacks, I mean, you're either a top 12 or you're not. So I don't know if we really have to go.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the less compelling things to talk about because
Yeah.
you don't have to
For
really
bust?
concern yourself with it too much. It's
That's
probably all obvious names that we're going to talk about real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry. When I looked at my list, I realized Jalen Hurts is being drafted, and I think he's an absolute bust as far as a fantasy quarterback. I'm not sure if he's going to last long as the starter or not. I'm not really here to make a declarative statement on his career.
Yeah.
But to be drafted 80th, there's just really no reason to do it. I mean, again, all these sleepers, Burrow, Lawrence, Mayfield, Stafford, they're all going under Jalen Hurts, so I'm not really sure what the appeal is with this guy. He had 1,000 yards throwing last year, which I found very strange. And I've watched his games. It was really weird to see his stat lines. He's a rushing quarterback, it seems. I do not want a quarterback that can only run the ball. That's some Tim Tebow level risk you're taking. So that's one of my major busts.
Who else you got on your bust
Well,
list?
Dan started with Tua. We both agreed,
Tua,
so
yeah,
I'll let
yeah,
Dan
for sure.
take it Tua away if he wants
Yeah.
to. Because I also had
Yeah,
him.
we talked
Yeah.
about Tua.
1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, 64%. You have to understand, guys, when you get near the under 65% completion rate, you're in some trouble as a NFL quarterback and a fantasy quarterback. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to look at all these numbers and realize all these guys almost complete 70% of their passes. When they're getting closer to 60%, you're seeing a lot of duck balls, a lot of throwaways, a lot of bad reads. It's indicative of either a problem with the offense or a guy who's not really there.
I think we can all agree that one name you should stay away from regardless is Drew Lock, because that situation in Denver, even though he's got the weapons, I mean, it could be Teddy Bridgewater
Yeah, is he
starting.
even going to win the starting job? I have
Yeah.
no idea. I don't know.
That's true.
Avoid the
Yeah,
Broncos
yeah,
quarterbacks
yeah.
until further notice.
Yeah. One guy that I looked at and just thought, I can't see myself drafting this guy, and his numbers were incredible. I was like, geez, did he really have that good of a season? Is Tom Brady. I am not confident in drafting Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Look, time waits for no one. Eventually, the floor falls out from under you. It's strange because it felt like he had a really rough season early on, and I guess he must have turned it around and just went absolute nuclear, which clearly he did. They won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's not. I'm not going to be.
The
touching
guy had
Tom Brady.
4,600 yards and 40 touchdowns. I mean, that is wild. That is some New England level Randy Moss type shit that this guy was doing. But for whatever reason, I'm not going to go there.
I think there's a lot of risk.
He is being drafted 83rd, which is basically what 8th, 9th round. I mean, again, we talked about all these other guys you can have for the exact same
Yeah.
price that aren't dinosaurs. I mean, he's doing something that's unheard of. It is incredible from an individual standpoint what Tom Brady is doing here at his age. But I'm not going to take him with the. This is where people will come in for the first time. They're going to grab that book and they're going to look at Brady's stats and go, "Man, this guy." But I won't draft him from a fantasy standpoint. It's just it's not the thing that I.
Yeah,
that I would
but
do.
he will get drafted.
He will be drafted.
Someone's going to draft
and hey,
him.
maybe even someone's going to enjoy that. And you know what? If you're playing DFS this year, maybe you're going to plug him in for the right place because everyone can at the right price, But
Anything else or?
No, as far as quarterback goes, I think we've touched on a few guys.
rookie
And-
quarterbacks was my other bust because
yeah.
I don't see the Andrew Luck types, the Joe Burrow, if you will, maybe even. I don't see it. Again, they're all bad positions, guys. People have to be careful when they draft good players on bad teams. I learned that the hard way over years. You could be a good player, but if you're in the wrong situation or you're just not ready, it's not going to go great for Mac Jones and he might even start New England. The Jets with their guy. There's no way that's going to be.
All right, so quickly, just run down your picks.
Yeah, so for my must-haves, I got Pat Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. And if you're looking for sleepers later on the draft, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, Fitzpatrick, and infamous Jameis Winston.
Nice, Scott.
Yeah. My must-haves generally are dual threat quarterbacks, guys that are going to give you a little bit of rushing as well as slinging that ball. So it goes Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, who maybe should be bumped down this list. It wasn't necessarily in a proper order. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, if that all works out well for him, and Dak Prescott, because they're all going to give you what you really need.
Yeah, I like Wilson. I like Rodgers. I like Herbert.
Yeah.
And I guess that wraps up episode 1.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, hey, man, you guys are going to be able to. The thing about quarterbacks is it's easy to find information and it's easy to see if they're looking good or not. You're not going to have a hard time figuring out if this guy is for you or not when you dig into it.
There's a lot of depth as well. So
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening to our first episode.
And again, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Fantasy Football Scouts. And we'll see you for episode 2, wide receivers or running backs. Which one are we touching next?
I guess they're just going to have to listen and find out because, I mean...
Thanks, guys.